Hey there folks, Aldershot here, and today we're going to do an impression on Republique, developed by Camouflage, and it's on sale on Steam at the regular price, around $25 USD. Now Republique is kind of an interesting title in that it is episodic, however, only episode 1 through 3 out of 5 is currently available. Now, when you buy this game, you actually buy the entire package, so you don't really have a choice. You don't really buy the game episodically. You just kind of pay the $25 up front, and you'll get the episodes as the developers finish them, I guess. But as I mentioned before, only episode 1 through 3 is currently, as of this recording, available. So that's what we'll be exploring. That's what we'll be talking about. Now, when the game is fully complete and all the episodes are released, we might come and revisit Republique in the future if I feel necessary. But for the time being, let's just explore what the game has to offer currently. Now, Republique is kind of interesting because it's sort of like a stealth game, but it has some pretty interesting mechanics. It's a little bit unique in its own right. And it's developed by indie veterans, right, from Halo and Fear, and even Metal Gear Solid. So there's definitely some big titles being named there. But this is an indie game, actually. This is completely independently developed. It was kickstarted, had a very successful kickstarting campaign, and here we are talking about Republique. Now, at the end of the video, we are going to take a look at any extra features that this game might have to offer, as well as the options menu, just so you get a good idea what you're getting into. But for the time being, let's just jump into the game and kind of explore it a little bit. That's what we're here for, right? Anyways, this is the game that I'm currently playing, but we're not going to go into that game. We're actually going to go into a new game. And we'll talk a little bit more about that at the end of the video when we start talking about the extra features and all that stuff. But let's just jump into this one here that we just got started. We're going to skip episode 1 because this is somewhat narratively based, and because of that, I want to do my best not to spoil much of the story for you guys. As much as I possibly can, of course, but there's obviously going to be some spoilers if I'm going to be talking about the game, but I will remain as vague as possible, especially when talking about the game's plot points, right? But anyways, we're going to start episode 2, so we'll skip episode 1, and we will watch the initial cutscene going into the game, just so you guys have a good idea of how the cutscenes are presented, and that way we can talk more about it. But anyways, let's start this. Okay, let's do this.
Am I happy to see you? I'm in a bit of a situation here. Locked in. And I'm not alone. What should we do? How do we get out of this room?
Alright, so that's the opening cutscene for Chapter 2, and generally speaking, whenever you jump into the game, whether it be Chapter 1 or Chapter 3, the game will pretty much start in a similar cutscene fashion. But anyways, here we are. This is the girl, quote-unquote the girl. Her actual name is Hope. We'll talk a little bit more about that. But we actually don't actually control the girl. We are some weird cyber entity where we can take control of cameras, and through that, we kind of guide the girl through her adventure. And I'll show you that now. So you press space, and there's a camera up here, so we'll click on that. And there we go. Now we are the camera. We can move the camera around, right? And we can pause the game at any time, and we can actually jump from camera to camera as necessary, right? So when you're going through the adventure, or through this game, it's a pretty good idea to jump from camera to camera to kind of scout ahead to make sure there's no dangers ahead of you, so to speak. But how do you control the girl then, you might ask, seeing how we actually control a third-party entity that kind of guides the girl rather than actually controlling the girl herself? Well, it's pretty simple actually. You just kind of click on one area or another.
I have just found a new battery for the girl's phone. Some OmniView abilities require battery power and will not work when the girl's phone is not well charged.
Here's a little example of the narrative in this game. You do get a little bit of third-party help as well from a guy named Cooper who helps guide you through the story. He does kind of talk in a robot voice. He's texting essentially. But anyways, yeah, this is how you control the game, the girl, if you will. And like I said, it's not really so much controlling. You serve more of a guide than a controller in this game, and I think that's one of the more interesting parts of Republique. But anyways, let's explore more of the game now that we know how to control her. So again, we can press the space button, which will pause it and put you into this sort of cyber view, if you will. And in this view, besides being able to switch from camera to camera, you're also able to inspect the environment around you in a little bit more detail, right? For example, this person who's laying down in the ground, we can click on her ID card right there, and that'll show you a little bit more details about who this person is, including her name, height, weight, eyes, medical history, all that kind of good stuff, right? So it gets pretty detailed. But throughout the game, you can also click on these little yellow things as well, and they'll give you more detail into the environments and the story and the characters that are involved, of course. So let's check that out. Let's say we click on this thing here.
Dissection of a prequel.
Some doors in Metamorphosis require voice recognition data to open.
So there you go. You're able to kind of get a little bit of background story on any given item if you can find anything of interest. Let's click on this thing here.
A broken collar. The prequel who wore it was also broken by Mireille, and that was before the Prizrak got their claws into him.
So as you can see, these sort of objects that you find around the environment, they kind of serve as, sometimes they're puzzle pieces, but oftentimes they're just narrative devices to help elaborate on what's going on in the world. But anyways, let's keep taking a look at the world. Let's see what this VCR or camcorder is all about. Anyways, I am going to skip this because I don't want to spoil anything. Oh, looks like I can't skip it. I guess I'm going to have to spoil this little part. Bear with me here. But as you can see, you know, you can find objects in the world as the camera, and you'll be able to get a little bit of background story behind what the hell's going on in this little narrative that this game has going for it. There we go. We got the pin code from that. Excellent. So now we can get out. That's good. That's good. Now, my only critique about the way that the game has kind of handled, like the way you kind of get background information from these objects is, as you can see, let's say we click on this, the game is completely still. I can't move the character at all. And sometimes that can break the pacing a little bit, since the game forces you into a pause situation where you can't really move or interact with the world. But anyways, let's get out of this room.
We can't open the door without a pin.
Okay, so we know the pin code now. So in this view, we're gonna, there we go, insert it just like that, and get out just like that. Alright, looks like our friend Cooper's calling us. We're gonna just skip through all this stuff, actually. This isn't a Let's Play, this is more of a critique, right? But anyways, let's see what's in the other room. So we can't see what's in the other room right now, right? So there could be a whole bunch of baddies out there, we don't know. Probably not a good idea to just step out there, right? So let's look for a camera that might be outside, like this one here. And that way we can get a nice scope of what the hell's going on out here. So it looks pretty safe, doesn't look like there's any bad guys out here. So it's probably pretty safe to move around.
Thanks for getting me out of there.
So as you can see, even the girl is talking to you as though you are a character in the story itself. The way that the game have made the controls into the cameras surveilling the environment itself, it's actually pretty immersive, I have to say. Especially considering that the girl and even other characters kind of acknowledge you, the player's existence. They actually talk to you breaking that fourth wall that a lot of games, a lot of stories tend to build up. So that's kind of interesting. It's very, very immersive, and certainly something that kind of grabbed my attention as far as Republic is concerned. But as we can see, there's some interest points when we look into this view, so it's probably a good idea to take a look at that, because the more interest points that you collect, they'll actually give you a form of pseudo currency that you can use to you know, exchange for different abilities. For example, like hacking a guard's communicator, slowing them down, and all that kind of stuff, right? So it got a little bit of character development as well. Very minimal, but it does. It is in the game. But anyways, let's get out of here. Let's go into the next room, the library, and we can check our map just to make sure we're going the right way. And we can do that in this view. We'll be able to see all our important information, just like that. So this yellow thing is our guiding point, so we have to go over here. That's pretty simple, easy enough. You can actually pick up objects as well, like tasers and even pepper spray to help you get away from any guards that might be on your tail, which definitely helps. You can also see your data here as well, just kind of showing you the UI a little bit right now. Now, you can kind of get lost through going from camera to camera, just like this. Right, so it's pretty easy to kind of lose where your character is. Luckily, the game kind of thought of that, and you can quickly press this button here, Find Hope, and I'll take you to the camera that's closest to her, which makes navigation a lot easier. Although, because we're not actually controlling the girl, we're controlling the entity that controls the cameras, we can actually go into different rooms without actually bringing the girl with us, which is great. Now, over here, I mentioned that there is some minor character development in this game. I'll show you that a little bit here. So when you find one of these kind of terminals, you just kind of click the button. You don't even need the girl to be in the same room with you.
You just found.
Alright, we're going to just skip all this stuff, because I'm trying to spoil as little as possible here. And right here kind of tells you all the little tidbits of information that you've been collecting, and that kind of turns into currency. And with that currency, you can buy upgrades. Let's see, we got 450 bucks. Let's see what we can buy. That's 600. That's 900. That's way too much for us. Alright, this is 400. Scan email, so we'll get that. So now, next time we find a terminal or a computer with some emails involved, we can scan it and gain more currency with it, because that's just more information for us, right? But anyways, let's go back to Hope. Find Hope, just like that, and get into the next room. Can I skip this? No, I don't think I can. So it looks like we'll have to watch the cutscene, which is fine, you know. I think you guys should take a good look at how the cutscenes are presented. Which brings me to my next point. The game looks freaking fantastic. It's a really good looking game. I think it's quite obvious. It's crafted over 5 years by a bunch of game dev veterans, like I mentioned earlier. People from Fear, people from Metal Gear Solid, people from Mass Effect, I believe. I could be wrong on that one, but definitely industry veterans, and you can definitely tell by the quality of artistry that is in play here. You know, the character model, the texturing, and all the stuff, the lighting. It's beautifully rendered. It's wonderfully crafted. It's wonderfully designed, right? So, all kudos as far as aesthetics is concerned. It got a pretty good audio soundtrack to complement the visual quality as well, which is great. But anyways, the game wants us to go into our camera mode, just like that. And let's see, it doesn't look like we have any baddies, so let's just head right to our main goal. Let's see. Now, you ever get lost to what you're supposed to do, you can always click this button here, the help desk.
The girl is no doubt anxious to see the librarian. His office door is located on the 2nd floor.
Okay, great. So we have to get to the 2nd floor. So going up these stairs is probably a good idea. Now we don't know if there's any baddies, so we better switch our camera just to, you know, gauge our environment, just to make sure where we're going is safe. So we gotta go up here. It looks pretty safe so far. So let's have the girl run up here and hide. Now you can run by double clicking, but I choose to just sneak around by single clicking. So as you can see, controlling the character and the environments and all that kind of stuff Ooh, too close, too close. It's all done with point and click, so it's pretty simple, right? And I actually don't mind it. Now, because of this, you know, the AI is not always perfect. You know, like because of the whole point and click control scheme, a lot of where your character is going to move is going to be based on, I guess you can say, AI, and I'll show you an example. So I'm right next to him, right? Realistically, anyone else in the real world would have definitely noticed me sneaking up next to him through the corner of their eyes, right? Now, this is a video game, so arguing realism isn't necessarily always a valid argument, but still, you know, it does break the immersion that the game has developed a little bit. But at the same time, from a mechanic standpoint, I can kind of understand why. Again, back to what I was saying, because
it seems this door requires omni-level.
Okay.
You can up.
Gotcha, thank you. As I was saying, because the game is controlling the girl mostly through AI, because you're just clicking her overall destination, and the AI kind of takes over, and it'll take control of where she's actually going to move. And because of that, and because we all know game AI isn't 100% dependable, I can understand why the enemy AI can be perceived as kind of dumb. Right, like I said, like you just saw me sneaking up right next to the enemy AI, didn't do a damn thing because his cone of vision is so narrow, and is currently making my way just fine, you know, not in any danger, I'm not in any trouble, I'm gonna just keep going my way, right? So there is that. Because it's simplified control schemes, it demands a degree of simplified AI, right? So take that as you will. Anyways, we can also collect these books here, and these are kind of like little bonus objectives. And you can actually kind of see the stuff that you collected right here.
Salinger, amateur sculptor of teenage angst. In Catcher in the Rye, he forces us to watch Holden flit from school to school. Oh, poor Eo, tormented by Hera's gadfly. When Caulfield realizes that he, not the institutions, beleaguer him the most, he is truly at risk. Our beloved pre-cows must never know their gadflies and ever rely on their Republique to satisfy. We don't need another Mark David Chapman.
So here we go, a little example of the narration when you find an object. Now that kind of goes back to what I was saying. The way the game explains information and details when you do go into more detail, and how the game kind of pauses and forces you to look at a still image to get that narration. It's a little bit, you know, immersion breaking. Well, it's not really immersion breaking. I would say it breaks the pacing of the game more than I think the designers would like, in my opinion. Because sometimes I'm just playing through the game, having a good time, you know, making some good time through stealthy action, if you will, and then I find an object and I'm completely stuck listening to narration for like a good 2-3 minutes sometimes, right? Sometimes some of them are pretty long, and that kind of breaks the pacing, and it's a little bit distracting, right, from what otherwise is a fairly well-paced game for the most part. Anyways, we gotta go downstairs, I do believe, so let's do that. It doesn't look like there's any danger around here. The game definitely looks good, right? I've already talked about the visuals already, but I just have to bring it up again because it really does look really, really good. I love the style, I love the technical artistry that's involved here, and the fact that it's all crowdfunded and it's independently built and all that kind of stuff. It's all pretty good, it's worth mentioning, right? Anyways, there seems to be a museum here, so let's take a look in here. Now, in a game like this, I came into Republique expecting a very, very narrative-driven game, right? Where the gameplay would take kind of like the background element aspect, and the narration take kind of the forefront element of the game, right? Kind of like if I was to compare my expectations, anyways, of what I thought Republique was going to be, I would say sort of like a Telltale game, you know, where the gameplay itself is rather mundane. but the storytelling is very, very engaging. Now, Republic, that's kind of what I was expecting, but strangely enough, I actually found the gameplay to be incredibly engaging. I really like this whole point-and-click stealth adventure, but using the camera to navigate thing that the game kind of have going for it. Like the whole camera movement thing, it reminds me of classic Resident Evil games, where it's more of a what's that word I'm looking for? More of a static perspective through pre-render backgrounds and all that stuff. And this game kind of reminds me of that. But the stealth elements itself kind of reminds me of old school Metal Gear quite a bit, which I definitely like, you know. Anyways, it looks like we have to go in here, so let's do that. So I found the gameplay to be really, really engaging, and there's a fair amount to offer as well. Later on, you'll find some more puzzles, and a lot of the puzzles kind of remind me of old school Resident Evil puzzles as well, actually. So that was kind of unexpected. I definitely appreciate it for sure. Yeah, I kind of like this whole point and click, looking for little bits of information, hide and seek thing that's kind of going on here as well. I found this to be fairly engaging as well. Now, don't get me wrong, the gameplay itself isn't something I would call skill-based, right? Like I said, you know, the stealth is relatively easy in comparison to other stealth games I've played, but satisfying enough. And the whole point-and-click basis makes it very interesting, very unique, and kind of a new experience for me, which I definitely appreciated about Republique. So, with that said, you know, I like the gameplay. I thought, you know, it's a lot deeper and more engaging than I initially gave it credit for when I first jumped into it. So these are good things. These are, of course, good things. But strangely enough, as I was mentioning before, I was kind of expecting more of a narrative experience. And I have to say, I finished chapter 1 through 3 already, right? I have to say, I wasn't overly pleased with the story of Republique, unfortunately. That's going to be kind of my main points of, I guess, of contention with this game. Not that the story itself is bad. It's just very, very cliche. It's just explores things that's been explored already without offering anything new or anything overly inspiring from its own inspirations. So that can be perceived as a bit of an issue. Now again, I don't want to go into spoilers and all that kind of stuff, because, you know, for people who are interested, it's not something that I want to do to them. But I will speak generally about the story, and that Republique is a dystopian story, is a dystopian tale where there's a bunch of people who are oppressed, who can't exit, let's say, the facility as they choose. Oh no, looks like a guard may have noticed us. Let's see if we can hide from him. Oh, he sees us. Let's see if we can run away. We sometimes can get the potential to run away, and alright, we got some pepper spray. That's good. Let's run through the store. Do we have another pepper spray? We don't. Okay. So we got caught. I can show you the fail state of this game before I move on to the narration or the narrative of the game and want my thoughts on that. But as you can see, when you get caught, so Cooper's calling us. Blah blah blah. Yeah, I get you. I gotta be careful. Now, when you get caught, you get thrown into like the little prison area, and since we're the computer, we can just unlock it. Right? Pretty simple. It's a pretty poor fail state, to be completely honest. And sometimes, since these prisons are located in specific locations, sometimes getting tossed into prison actually advances you through the game, as it'll take you further into areas that you actually need to go. So that's kind of interesting. And by the way, right here you can recharge your batteries, and you use the batteries to do special things, like for example triggering the guard's radio to slow them down and all that stuff. But anyways, there you go. That's the fail state of this game. Is actually not much of a fail state. You just kind of exit and yeah, go on your merry way. But anyways, as I was mentioning about the narrative, I found it a little bit lacking. The whole story is basically a dystopian story where, you know, all the people are oppressed. They can't do what they like. You know, they can't exit the facility as they choose. They're under heavy surveillance, as you can see through all the cameras that we're controlling, and all that kind of stuff, right? So pretty pretty general dystopian themes, if you will. There's even book burning involved, you know, which is kind of familiar if you read like Orwellian 1984 or like Fahrenheit and all those kind of classic dystopian tales. But unfortunately, I don't feel Republique really did too much in the way of advancing that genre of story, right? You know, it just kind of repeats a lot of common tropes and common themes that's already been explored. Again, I don't want to get too specific. And it doesn't really offer too much new stuff, unfortunately. Like, they could have went... Oh, I'm not playing this game very well. Run away, and see if we can hide. But anyways, as I was saying, like, the game creates a pretty interesting environment and a pretty interesting setting, but doesn't do too much to elaborate on it. Like, it doesn't go into... you know, how the people live day to day. It doesn't go into any personal stories or anything like that. Hell, I don't even know too much about the girl that I'm supposedly controlling or guiding through the story. You know, she's really just a nameless puppet. And through the 3 episodes I've played so far, it doesn't really go too far into her story either, right? Like, if I was to, you know, map the story arc through, you know, if I was to map the story arc and the character development and all that kind of stuff, it would be a very, very flat graph, let me tell you. You know, there's really not that much developing. It's just, oh, you're oppressed. You have to not be oppressed by exiting. And that's generally what you'll be doing for the majority of this game as far as the narrative is concerned. So, I don't find the story all that engaging. I don't find the narrative to be evolving very much, and I don't find the story offer too much in the way of anything new to the whole dystopian theme. It's everything that's being portrayed here as far as story is concerned has been done to death 100,000 times and doesn't really do too much to advance it, right? So my biggest complaint, strangely enough, especially considering my expectations going into this game, is the story. I don't find it that engaging. Now, luckily for me, and hopefully for you guys too, the gameplay itself is engaging enough to keep me interested. I like the pacing of the game. I like the whole point-and-click stealth aspect. I think that's really kind of neat and kind of unique and very new to this genre. And I like the idea of controlling the cameras in order to navigate from area to area. I think that's also a very neat and original gameplay mechanic as well. Looks like this is the destination. So, strangely enough, again, because of my expectations going into this game, I liked it for every reason I didn't expect to like it, and my complaints about this game is actually based on elements that I thought I would enjoy from this game, right? So I like the gameplay, I like the way it's designed, but I'm not really a big fan of the current story that's being told right now. But there is a lot going for this game, though. You know, despite my complaints about the narrative of this game, it has really unique gameplay mechanics. It has amazing visuals and really great audio to go with it as well. So Republique is definitely worth checking out, I think, especially if you're into the stealth genre. I think this is definitely a very fresh take on the stealth genre. I think it has a lot to offer for stealth fans. And even point-and-click fans, you might find this to be pretty entertaining as well, because this is actually a very interesting take on the whole point-and-click types of games as well, I find. So yeah, Republique, definitely a lot to offer. I hope they do improve on the story. I hope to get more into the character development side of the girl and the characters that are around her. And I hope they can add some new ideas to the whole dystopian theme, you know? Because like I said before, so far, from what I've played, it does very little to move the dystopian genre of storytelling forward. It's just a lot of repetition of things that's already been done. But anyways, let's get out of here. I'm going to go into the menu and kind of wrap up, talk about the extra features and the options and all that. So I'll take a look at the options first. So you can turn on or off the objective marker. I kind of recommend keeping it on. It just makes things a little bit easier. Let's see, you can also control the zoom and pan speed of the camera, and you can control the inverts, which is pretty, basic stuff here. Audio, usual suspect as far as audio sliders is concerned. Video, unfortunately, is a little bit lacking, is not as robust as I would like to see. There's not even anti-aliasing that you can kind of turn on and off. It's just very general quality checks, like model detail or post effects and all this stuff, right? As far as I'm concerned, or as far to my knowledge, I don't think you can actually recalibrate your controls, and it doesn't control or doesn't support controller or gamepad controllers, so something to keep in mind. Kind of tripped over my own words there, but I think you guys get the idea. That's as much as the options menu anyway, so it's a little bit lacking, could be improved a little bit, but nothing too criminal either. As far as extra features, not too much in the way of extra features. Oh god, that just minimalized my window. Hopefully that didn't ruin my recording. And now music is playing. Okay. I apologize for that. Anyways, extra features, not much in the way here. You can kind of load your old saves, and you can't actually replay chapters, unfortunately. If you miss something through an area, you actually have to go through your last save points in your last area and go back all the way to collect that object. You have to start a new game if you want to play from a different chapter. But there you go, that's Republique. Definitely an interesting take on the stealth genre. If you're into the stealth genre or point-and-click games, I would actually recommend Camouflage, or not Camouflage, Republique. And I don't think its asking price of $25 is actually too much, if you're into those two genres that I named off. But if you're looking for an engrossing narrative experience with a dystopian feel, well, I'm not saying the story is bad, it's just a little uninspired and doesn't do anything new for the dystopian genre to move it forward, right? It's really a lot of the same elements, a lot of the same kind of storytelling that you might have already read or seen from other dystopian stories. But again, that's not necessarily bad. It's just uninspired or unoriginal. So there you go, guys. That's Republique. I'm very excited to actually play the next two chapters, and I might revisit the game on this channel, like I mentioned before. But anyways, if you enjoyed this or found this informative, show me some love, like, share, fave, and comments. If you haven't already, subscribe, and I'll bring you more videos just like this. Thanks for watching, guys. All the shoutouts.